Welcome to the Department of Life Sciences podcast for Women at Imperial Week 2026. International Women's Day 2026 centres on the theme Give to Gain, the idea that progress happens when we intentionally give respect, voice, care, knowledge, opportunities, and resources to others. In a university community, that giving doesn't only apply in lecture theatres or laboratories. It happens in offices, technical spaces, meetings, emails, and everyday interactions that keep the system running. We're bringing together voices from across the Department of Life Sciences, from administration, technical teams, research, and teaching, to reflect on what giving has meant in their working lives and what we can all gain when equity and support are shared responsibilities.
In this episode, we are joined by Emma. Emma, could you tell us a little bit about your role at Imperial and a fun fact or a part of your role that you find most rewarding?
Hi Josh, thanks for having me on here today. I'm Emma and I'm a marine biogeochemist, which means I'm interested in the biology, the chemistry, and even now a bit the physics of the oceans, specifically really looking at how marine life cycles carbon through the oceans. I'm an associate professor here, so that means I do research, teaching, and also kind of some admin things that help the department run smoothly. And I guess something that's a bit interesting about what I do is I look at poo a lot in the ocean. So I'm very interested in how animals and their feces can help sink carbon to the deep ocean.
Amazing. And what motivated you to either pursue a career in marine biogeochemistry, but also kind of in academia as well?
Yeah, I never thought I'd be a poo scientist. Even during my undergrad, that was never something that really I was inspired by. So it's kind of accident that I got into this subject area, really. I actually interviewed for a PhD in something completely different in fish and how we can track fish around the oceans and sharks, but was unsuccessful, and then got offered to do the PhD that I ended up doing in marine biogeochemistry, and I've kind of never looked back really. And actually with climate change, there's a huge amount of interest in the carbon cycle. So I'm really thrilled that life threw me a curveball and I didn't get something, but actually it's worked out really well. And what motivated me to pursue academia was university as an undergrad, we were kind of told as marine biology students that we could go into consultancy where we would just kind of look under a microscope at soil samples from the ocean and sift out shells and count the life that was there for oil rigs and that kind of construction. That sounded horrendously dull to me. And so the only other option I saw was research and a PhD student. And when I was in labs and stuff and you saw them all demonstrating or being a GTA as a PhD student, I just thought they were so cool because like they knew the lecturer who was really clever. And I just thought that sounds like a really fun position to be in. So yeah, that's kind of why I did a PhD. There wasn't a huge amount of thought into it either. And then I've just been inspired by my competitive nature to just, I am going to make it. I am going to be in that small percent and I can do this. So just inspired by my own kind of, insanely competitiveness really that kind of made me push myself to get to where I am today.
I mean, that's really kind of motivational for those to hear. And would you say now you are the associate professor, do you now look at your lecturers that you had previously with like a slightly different light?
It's really interesting. So I'm actually starting to, in the early stages of a grant proposal with one of them, actually the person who I didn't get the PhD with originally. And so whenever I'm in a Teams meeting with him, I kind of just think, we often talk about it, like how odd it is that he taught me 15 years ago as an undergrad and now we're like almost as equals. So it is really bizarre. And I also have a lot more compassion for my PhD supervisors who I now understand why they were so time short. And for any time they did have with me, I was always grateful then, but you just can't imagine the number of different like balls that an academic has to juggle. You think but until you're in it and you have inbox chaos, you can't quite understand it. So I think I'm a lot more sympathetic to those people. But I guess my lecturers seem a bit more human to me now. Now I am one myself.
Yeah, definitely. And this year's International Women's Day has a theme around this give to gain. And I really would like to ask, like, when you hear this theme, what does that mean to you in sort of the context of your work, either at Imperial or sort of working within the broader academic sphere?
I was interested by this. To me, it's a bit more of a negative phrase. I'm kind of surprised it's being used because it's not overly clear what is meant by it. But to me, we shouldn't have to give to gain. And, a lot of people would say that actually women have to give a lot to gain the same as men in academia, or feel they have to, even if they don't now, even if the system is better for them and for us. A lot more women will say yes to things and not prioritize their own research and their papers because they're giving all this service role, teaching maybe, to the department, and just to gain that same promotion because they don't feel they can get it without doing that, whereas a male may do. But this isn't across the board, right? I'm really oversimplifying and massively stereotyping. But to me, we shouldn't. I don't know. Women shouldn't have to give to gain more. But maybe it's suggesting that everybody needs to give the same amount to get the same amount.
And I wonder if you could share a time when somebody has given you support, whether that is like flexibility or advocacy that kind of made a real difference in the way that you worked.
There are two people that stand out. So the first one is my line manager at Imperial, Professor James Rosendale. Shout out to him. He's a legend. He is a massive advocate for me, but I see him how he interacts with everyone. He's a massive advocate for everyone. He wants to make sure that everyone who he's interacting with, is having the best time they can in their job and feels respected. And I had a bit of a odd career path in, I guess, a bit similar to his, doing a research fellow and then into the lectureship. So that comes with all different kinds of challenges itself. And he really helped me navigate that and really advocated for me to the department. So I'm always very grateful for his support and his time. He's very generous with his time. And then another one is a kind of external collaborator. So Professor Stephanie Henson, she's at the National Oceanography Centre. And she wasn't my PhD that's where I did my PhD. She wasn't my PhD supervisor, but she kind of was like a periphery supervisor. I had a team of 4 men. As you said before we started, I can't remember the word you used, but basically quite happy to say what I think. So I was able to stand up for myself when I needed to in this supervisory team of 4 males. But it was really nice to have her on the side helping me with the science, but just also to kind of have like a calmer, rational female who I could talk to. But since then, she's kind of become a friend, and she's always nominating me for things within like our scientific world, and that's really helped me. Like, I think, she says it wasn't through her, but we co-chaired a Royal Society meeting, and I think she had a lot to do with that. And just small things, she's really helped put my name forward, and you really need a champion like that. So yeah, they're kind of the 2 people that have really helped me in my career.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really good. I think having somebody that constantly puts your name forwards, that nominates you for things, means that, especially in academia, your name is then known, your name is heard, your name is in those spheres, and it is about who you know.
Exactly. It's like networking is massively important, but it's so hard and it's so awkward. Now I don't mind it because I have lots of grants and projects and I have lots of stuff going on. So it's really easy to go up for me to talk to anyone in like the few different fields I work in and be like, oh, what do you think about this and stuff. And also, I guess, as now I'm in a permanent position, that's kind of validated my imposter syndrome. So I still get it in certain circumstances, right? But it's nowhere near as bad as it was as a postdoc, where I didn't know whether I was going to make it, or I still felt not as clever as everyone else. And then you get to the position you're in now and you realize, well, everyone thinks that. Like, there are very few like serious geniuses in academia. Like, there are some.
And in your role, then, you've said that you've really tried to help the postdocs or the PhDs in your community as well and within your group. So what are some of those ways that you do try to give to others?
I think time mostly. I try to be generous with my time with them and meet weekly, although now it's gone fortnightly. Hopefully it doesn't go monthly, then I really lost it a bit. But just thinking about the experience that I've had, because I did 2 different postdocs, and what I liked from both and what I didn't like. And so trying to give them time, but also giving them freedom. So my first postdoc, I didn't get a lot of time with my supervisor, but I got a huge amount of artistic license and freedom to do what I wanted. And I loved it. I ran with it and was prolifically published, and it was amazing and really helped cement my career. So I try and do that. But then some people don't like that and don't know what to do with that freedom. So it's, I'm learning a lot as I go with being a new line manager and project managing about actually everybody in your team is so different. Some will love that freedom, some actually want more structure and support. So trying to work with them to find out how they like to work. And then career advice, running CV workshops, making them think about what the gaps are in their CVs and what they need to do. And also trying to be really transparent. That's something that I didn't like in one of my postdocs. I never knew what my supervisor was doing. And then he'd publish these huge papers that are like now seminal in our field. And I think, how did you never tell us you were working on that? And maybe it was just that, he was super busy and humble and didn't want to boast. But now with my group, I'm like, oh, just to let you know, I've got this other grant, or I'm going to this meeting on policy, and what do you guys want to do? And, just trying to have more conversations about what my job actually looks like.
But it also means that they can offer feedback up to you as well, right? Although you're applying for these grants, although you're going to these meetings, if you've got a presentation to give, for example, you don't have to just practice it with people that are at the same level as you, but you can present it to your postdocs and your PhDs, and they can offer advice that makes it less hierarchical.
Definitely. I applied for a grant this year, and I got one of my postdocs. I sat down with her and was like, this is what I'm planning. What do you think? Where are the gaps? And she had some great ideas. And another time, one of my team, we were kind of planning this experiment together, and she went away and kind of thought about it more. And then she came up with an idea that I hadn't even thought of. And so then it kind of became this whole other beast in itself. So I tried to work collaboratively, because we can learn a lot from people that are above us, but also from those that are more junior.
Yeah, and I think something that you raised earlier in your answer as well is about time. And I think, you were saying, oh, it's going from weekly to bi-weekly and and if it's going further and further away. But actually, yes, time is one thing, but just being present is also another thing. But on the flip side of that, you're thrown into being a project manager without ever really having proper training into being a project manager.
Massively. And for me, it was kind of like that, but on steroids, because I did an independent fellowship which only had money for my salary and a few consumables. It didn't have anybody else that I could hire. And then at the end of that, I went on maternity leave, and then I came back. And because during the fellowship, I had been part of these grants that were successful, I suddenly, within a year of coming back, had a team of 3 postdocs, a research assistant, and 2 PhD students. And I'd had 1 research assistant before that. So I suddenly went from managing 1 person to 6, multiple grants, and absolutely no training in project management at all, that I've had to learn as I go. But I could probably go on a project management course for academia.
Which kind of brings me to my next question, which is what kind of advice then would you give to your past self, a younger version of yourself?
Well, I'd just like to tell her, well done, you did it. you're gonna make it. And that, just that everything I did kind of worked. I think it's difficult in academia because you kind of wake up every morning and turn on your computer, and nobody tells you what to do. And actually that freedom is amazing, but at the same time it can be quite overwhelming when you're like, okay, was that a good use of my day? And you constantly, when you're trying to get a job, are thinking, right, do I need to prioritize papers today? Do I need to prioritize teaching? Do I need to, always second guessing yourself. And it was just nice to, now I'm here to see that actually, the years, it took quite a while to get to where I am, but it did all pay off. So I don't think I have advice other than just to keep going, doing what I was doing, and to believe in myself, which I think I did deep down. But you always have these moments of wild insecurity in different situations, and moments when you completely flop. Like I was such a nervous wreck when at the end of a presentation at conference, and I could do the presentation fine, and then the questions, even before they came in, I would just freeze. And I think it's where I transitioned from marine biology into this more kind of oceanography, biogeochemistry role. And I just felt very inadequate and didn't have the background knowledge, and I just hated it. I would go bright red and I would stumble, and now nobody will remember that, but that kind of thing stays with you. But it's nice to know that it's not career ending, it's just a bit embarrassing.
So my last question then, which is a bit more speculative really, and kind of more wider facing is if the powers that be, whether that be in the department or the faculty, Imperial, or even the broader sort of academic community is listening, what's something that you would change considering Give to Gain?
I don't know. It's a really difficult question. Part of me thinks it'd be helpful to have more strict rules about what we need for promotion and probation. I mean, I know promotion is fairly set out at Imperial, and I'm sure other places, these bullet points, but it's all kind of like, well, we can't all be perfect at everything. We take it on balance and something, but there could be something about women feeling they have to hit all of the things perfectly before they put themselves forward, and having a more mathematical system to figure that out. And similarly for probation, it's a long probation at Imperial, and it's also can be quite vague. And I know women around me have been very stressed by that as well, in an unhelpful way. But at the same time, then I think I can see the benefits of not having such strict measures, because it does allow the flexibility which could help women. But just a bit more space to allow women to come up, because in our department there are not a lot of female professors, and that shocks me. We have one at Silwood. Like, that's really bad. Like, how is that happening in this day and age? It's awful. And I just think something, we need to do much more to change that, because we need the students and the postdocs to see that women are getting these positions and they're staying there and they're happy and they're thriving. We have had professors before at Silwood and then they've left. So something obviously wasn't worth staying for. I love my job. I love being at Silwood. I love the department that I work in. And, I don't want to leave, and I want to stay here, and I want to be a professor in life sciences at Imperial. And I think it's only a matter of time, but we just need to allow more women to get up there and be that role model. And another thing that's, I guess, more for more junior staff is, what I had noticed is that the female have a lot more anxiety and a lot more imposter syndrome than the males, and I can see it actually stops them. So I think I have a bit of a more masculine attitude to life in some ways. Maybe I have more testosterone, I don't know. I'd be quite interested to get it tested. But for me, I felt imposter syndrome never blocked me applying for a job. I've actually used that to fire me up to do it. So the reason I came to Imperial was through my second postdoc. I felt massively unqualified, and I had to be like, if I was a man, I might feel like I could go for this. And I just went for it and I got it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it worked. And so I use it to fuel me, but I know that it cripples people. And from what I can see, it seems to cripple women more. But it's really interesting to watch. And yeah, I feel like I could also do with some training to help inspire them to use it as a ammunition.
I think that's a really powerful message to end on, actually. Thank you, Emma, for being involved in this podcast. I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
I have. Thanks so much for having me. It's been really interesting to think about these things. So thank you, Josh.